this very interesting shot here. We're talking serious when you see fingers like this. Welcome back to DG360, everybody. Pillar Talk is here. And I think Chris shows up for this one. And I think Tony Z is in this one. So I'm pretty excited that they're putting these gentlemen in the it is essential in every Pillar Talk to put Chris in it. I think we learned that on the last Pillar Talk when it was just Aaron and it was a mess. I think I went off for a week at the last Pillar Talk. So I'm going to hope for the best here. I'm breathing the Namaste Zen type vibes, and I'm hoping for a good Pillar Talk because the last Pillar Talk was a complete and utter train wreck. So let us hope for a good one here. We've been having just an unparalleled amount of positivity coming out of SIG right now. Between what had happened at CitizenCon, all the content has been released, 3.8, you know, the mole gonna hit, all these things, all the content hitting has been very positive lately. So I'm hoping for a very positive Pillar Talk here, and that we have Tony Z in there. Hopefully we can talk a little bit more about some economy, because we've been talking about it a lot on my channel. I did an economy video. We talked about the program which showed us the quanta. We're talking about setting initial price point value on commodities. We've been talking a lot here, and I've had great discussions within the comments of our YouTube videos and in our Discord community about what's to be expected with the economy. And it's exciting. It's exciting because it's like infant stages of it. So hopefully we get some economy talk, but let's see what we got here. Without further ado, let's start the video and let's watch it together.
You go on yet?
No.
I am going to bring this home in one take.
Let's do it. Got it.
No pressure.
None.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Pillar Talk. We're going to have some fun.
Is that too loud, by the way, guys? Just let me know in the comments if it's too loud. I'll turn it down just a touch.
Conversation here, and we're taking a little bit of time out of our busy schedule to talk about what's coming in 3.8,
Okay.
which will be right after CitizenCon.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Big thing that we're shipping with 3.8 is Planet Tech V4, which is a major step forward for how we realize our universe and star systems. And the place that most people will have seen it in CitizenCon would have been Microtech, which is also getting shipped with 3.8. Now we're only shipping Microtech itself, not its moons. New Babbage and the spaceport exteriors will be there, but the interior of it won't be until 3.9, just because we really want to do it right. But you know, we've worked quite a lot on sort of the environmental effects in CitizenCon, you know, showing outside of Microtech, flying down and just seeing how seamlessly
The transitions.
the transitions to detail. There's no
All right, so we know that on some ships you're not getting this effect. We know it because we did a video 2 days ago and we're not seeing it on the Cuddy. And there's a couple other ships where this effect isn't in. Some people reporting that they do have it on the Pisces, on the new Pisces that was released. So I'm not quite sure why some ships are getting the effect and why some aren't. I don't know if if it has something to do with the actual ship design. Those that are older ships not having this effect, while some of the newer ships are. Not quite sure where that problem stems from, but I'm sure they'll kind of nail it down and get that done. I had a good time. So overall in 3.8, I didn't have any crashes. This just might be me, but I want to give you guys my experience at 3.8 before we continue. I didn't have any crashes. I did an entire video of FOIP content that only took me about an hour of time and edited it in an hour and released it to my channel, which is the first time it's ever happened to me while playing Star Citizen. We still have 30K errors. It still can be buggy at times, but here's the thing. I had an experience where it was so positive that I couldn't just, I encountered an 890 jump with some expedition with a rover. I had a small confrontation. I landed in a storm. I went outside. I had the snow hitting me on the visor. I had like a complete amazing experience. It was a really good time. I flew into New Babbage. There was no orange shield that was going to block you from landing anywhere. You could literally land anywhere you wanted to. It was tighter. The display panel on the Cuddy was better laid out. I like the indicators on there. It really, the indicators on there really let you know what was going on at all times. I had a very good experience with 3.8. That's all I want to let you guys know.
Popping, there's no LODs that you can appreciate. You're in a snowstorm and you can barely see, and on your helmet visor it's slush, or on your canopy there's slush, or you're in a rainstorm, there's rain drops, you're going through a cloud.
What we've been developing, and we've talked about it a little bit, is what we call the actor status system. Basically, there's a Visio chart of every single thing that affects every single other thing. And what we wanted to do was not just wait till this is all in, but do some stuff that's extremely relevant to what we're doing right now. And the most relevant that you have on an ice planet is obviously the cold. So we want the characters to be reacting to the cold. And as you guys have seen in Citizen already, hypothermia isn't just your suit's not warm enough, so take some damage and you die. That is kind of the typical gamey, here you have some temperature, I give you a number, oh, you can't handle that number because you don't have the right suit on, and you die. It's not that simple for us. I think it's got much more of the fidelity that you've come to expect from Star Citizen, where it's not just some simple gameplay
and
number.
Before, we had room system, which is just breathing. So either you have oxygen, you don't have oxygen. And also our suits before were just purely damage mitigation.
Yep.
On bullets or projectiles coming at you. Now with this, I think internally we classify it as basically combat or utilitarian for the armors.
That's right.
And so then it gives us purpose for the utilitarian armors.
Sure, and you've got to make a decision as a player. If you got a Hornet, you can only store so many armors. You can only store so much stuff.
So you're talking about the visuals. You're talking about the impact on the characters themselves. It's interesting to think of what this means in terms of the potential to customize the economy. For example, the shops, what they're selling in terms of clothing and armor would be dramatically different on an ice planet like Microtech versus a planet that's burning hot, or a planet that's incredibly toxic, etc.
I guess things would be worth more or less too. Like, I mean, if you're selling a bathing suit on Microtech.
But it's also like, imagine a place, it's like you would expect to see lots of, frilly, deep, wool jackets.
I felt like Chris was leaning in there like, how are they making my game? This is interesting. I want to listen to how they're making my game. Like, I literally felt like Chris just leaned in there and he was like, oh, wow, this is going to be great.
And stuff on a cold planet, whereas you'd see T-shirts elsewhere, whereas you'd see more utilitarian gear over on Hurston, stuff that's intended to deal with the noxious fumes and pollution over there.
And not only that, the tool set for it we have is far, far more powerful and actually artist friendly and quick to use. So
yeah, I mean, it's an exciting thing for the artists. Like, to give you an example, is that that making this transition, any technological transition that we make within the game, we usually have to backtrack over a bunch of old content that we've had in place, and it's not so old, but we have planets, we have moons. So when you're changing underlying technology like that, you got to be able to make those updates. But of course, we can't spend the 6 months that we would have taken to make Daymar in the past.
And Bucha brings up a good point. He says, you can only have so many armors. Do they not think players won't find a way to hoard in or pack rat their items? I believe that there are going to be areas where you're going to stash these items, especially with OCS, and these items essentially never leaving. Chris had said that like any type of exploitation or abuse of a system where people are just kind of collecting turtles and just making like a turtle mountain will be wiped from the server. I don't know how they're going to police that, number one. That's going to be something that would be so difficult to police. Perhaps, I don't know if it's something they could put it in their code and just be like, zip, like, okay, no turtle mountain, so there's going to be kind of like abuses of this, of SOCS, where people are literally like, you got this permanence and you've got these items that never move until somebody else touches it or takes it. I love that idea, but but that concept is going to be very hard to police. Like, if these items in the game are going to stay there forever, and that's in theory how this is going to work, then some people are going to abuse that system by, collecting things or making things look kind of trashy in the game, and like that might break immersion, and in some instances people will look at that and say, hey guys, we need to do something about this. So I'm not quite sure how they're going to police that. As far as I'm concerned, when I play the game, what I intend to do is actually take most of my items and put it in areas in my habs where I live, weapons and items that I acquire along the way. I'm going to put it in my own habs all over the verse. So it should be interesting to see also like how many different types of HABs in areas they're going to have. I haven't been to the new stations yet in the game, but I heard they're pretty huge and the amount of HABs are ridiculous. But they're going to need a lot of HABs in order for us to have this experience where we can go anywhere we want, rent any HAB that we want, and put our items into those HABs. Just saying.
And we were able to, within about 2 months or so, and speaking on Marco's behalf, maybe a little bit here,
Right.
within about two months, and everybody there,
Michelle Cooper, all those guys.
we were able to apply those updates across all the planets.
Well, it's not just
within an amount
update.
of time.
I mean, they started from. It's basically started from scratch on rebuilding the
Rebuilt
planets,
it,
right.
And they rebuilt all our current planets and did Microtech and did all the moons in 2 months, and that's what.
Yeah, so that seems as if the process is faster. They're talking that point up. So, and that's something to be said. There is work being done on other systems right now behind the scenes, but this is something that's very important that was said here. How much quicker things are going to start to pump out now because of this, I'm not quite sure. But if in fact what they're saying is true, we should start seeing things come online quicker now. And that to me is very exciting. Very exciting. Let's see though, the only way that's going to be proven true is to see new systems, new areas come online. And then we got to talk about like bumping up the server count, having the ability to bump up the amount of people, because let's not forget, the more systems that come online, the more that the player base is spread out. And the more the player base is spread out, the less that we're going to see of one another. And to me, in a game, I want to make sure that I have a lot of activity with other gamers around me. So we do have to focus on bumping up player count, which is a whole nother issue.
Work that we've been working on for the past 2 years previously.
These evolutions are important with these tools, especially with one as large as this, because as we make them, as we make more of them, we learn so much about what we would like to do in the next one, and then we can apply that backwards, and then we learn some more, and we can apply back. It's like, we've been... in the first iterations of them, there was very little hand adjusting. In the next iteration, there was a little bit of hand adjusting, and everything has just evolved over the course of the years. It kind of lends itself to just what's going to work better for the artist, what's going to give us that sort of feel, but in the amount of time that we can actually spend on it. So I think it's a really important component of it.
3.8 is going to have server object container streaming, so SOCs as we call it.
Yeah.
So what do you see as the gameplay benefits?
From my standpoint, the biggest one will be AI and kind of the way that the ships feel in combat as well as the FPS in combat. With our server frame rates, the way that they currently run, it's basically 7 to 10 frames. When we get it running at 30 frames a second on the server, you'll see a major benefit.
So it's a lot less precise than what the client is, and so they get out of sync, and then you get weird behavior, a lag. And so if you get the server frame rate, which our target is 30 frames per second up, then the experience on the client side is better. And a lot of that weird AI behavior that people see, or doors not opening when they should open, isn't actually necessarily a bug. It's just that the server's gummed up.
It's the latency difference between what's happening on the server side and what's happening on your screen. So if they can speed this up on their side, they're saying essentially what's going to happen is that AI will react the way that we want it to react. At least that's what I'm kind of, a very layman's terms, seeing what they're saying here. So let's see.
Up are so far behind that it's not telling the client in time to do stuff.
Exactly.
From my point of view, the biggest improvement on the SOC stuff is really going to be
I wouldn't think that would just be that as well. It has to be a little bit more than just that. The way that the AI is interacting has a little bit more to do with that. Yeah. But I do see that the movement has improved. I did fight an NPC in space combat, but it still to me was a bit sloppy. Like there still needs to be a lot of improvement, as far as I'm concerned. I did see slight increases. I'm always seeing, like, from patch to patch, I do see slight increases in improvement, but nothing to the point where I'm like, wow, not yet, not with the AI yet.
Fact that it's going to break us free from ththese limitations in terms of how many locations and how much content we can put into the solar system. So it's tangentially related to what Pappy is saying in regards to, he's talking about the frame rate side of it. The part that I'm saying is, well, now we can get all these new locations without impacting the frame rate at all, because the server that you're on is still only loading what's absolutely necessary for the players that are on your server. And so what this is going to allow us to do is put more outposts, more space stations, more derelict ships, more caves, all of this content that heretofore we've been so constrained. We've had to basically weigh everything from the point of view of, well, what is this going to do to server performance? Because we know every single server, regardless of whether there's a single player there, is going to have to load this. And so we've already been in the mode for the last quarter or two, to where we're starting to get very sensitive about bringing in new content, whether we can afford it.
We've been that way since ArcCorp went in. Yeah. I mean, I think with 3.7, we wanted to put at least 100 caves in, and at least 100 in. I think we got 15.
I think right now, if you take a look on the servers, I think it's anything like 500,000 entities. It could be millions of physical entities, and so even with really powerful servers, which we have, that can take more time than we want. So the whole idea of server OCS is that you try to only have the bits you need to be simulating with, and therefore the frame rate should be higher. So our target server frame rate is 30 frames a second, and like you said, currently, with everything overloaded with content, it can get down to 5 or 6 frames a second, and that's when you don't have such a great experience, even if you have a high frame rate locally.
And I wonder what the actual limit is, even with SOCS. Like, I wonder if there will be a point when there are people playing the game and this gets to the point where it's releasable, where people are pumping out items. I wonder if there is a top end, even with SOCS. I'm really curious about that.
Absolutely, yeah, and for me, it's on the two different sort of pillar sides that I have. So on the technical content kind of side, the big difference is actually because we deal with the tools and the developer tools on that side. I think the biggest difference for us will be some internal differences, the turnaround time for us to run. So we're using so much RAM right now on the servers, so to be able to spin up the entire universe on a local dev box on just a normal.
I'm talking about commodities being introduced into the marketplace for Pine. As far as the amount of items that eventually will be there once the game is in its released state. What is there a top end even with SOCS? It's exactly what I'm talking about, Bert.
Kind of workstation was getting to the point that either one, it took a long time to get that thing loaded, because without server object container streaming, it didn't work like the client did, which was just loading what it needed. It was going to bring everything in. So that took some time. But then additionally, we're at a point that you would just run out of memory. You wouldn't be able to do it. So we even put developer tools in place to be able to exclude stuff from the universe. But that would mean that if you ever had to do testing on any of those ones you've excluded, you got to shut down, restart up. So basically, the developer workflow is going to be a lot better because the turnaround is going to be a lot quicker.
The next stages is using the tech in the editor, also in Squadron 42 for the same reasons, where the level of detail that we're putting into all the locations and the star systems that we have in Squadron, requires you couldn't fit it all in memory, and you wouldn't want to fit it all in memory. And the server OCS, which is basically a kind of an authoritative version of the worldview that you can sort of move a viewpoint around and stream in just the bits you need and stream out, it would make a big difference for that.
Yeah, when your iteration loop just takes that amount of time. I mean, you'll move things once, you'll move things twice, and then you'll be, it's okay. I'm not gonna spend 10 minutes, making that little tweak. But that's what Star Citizen is. We're about that kind of quality. We want that kind of iteration loop. So things like elevators, glitching out with you falling through them halfway through them, and the server basically being at a different frame rate, or ships inside of ships, or when collisions happen. It comes down to a feel thing. Things are responsive. Things are actually feeding back to you when you expect them to. When you hit a guy, he's actually when the ragdoll happens, you see it at the same time. So to me, it's kind of those two things. There's a bit of feel in that, the responsiveness and the developer workflow, and in the end, being able to load a lot faster.
Will this allow us to increase the player count in the short term? We have server OCS. Can we have more players?
Oh, now we're talking. Wait a second. Wait a second here. Okay, hold on a second. Don't get me too excited, because this is something I've been talking about. Let's see what the answer to that one is.
In one server, that is.
In theory, it definitely should. I think we're at the point now to where we haven't yet done sufficient testing that we would basically want to definitively say one way or the other. That's certainly what we're thinking we're going to want to be. We're certainly going to be doing tests.
Buzz is saying that the rumor is, because the PTU's down right now for maintenance, and Buzz is saying that that's the rumor, that they're doing that right now this second. Wouldn't that be fantastic if after I get done streaming with you guys, I go into the game and there's more players? That would be crazy.
And seeing how far we can push it. It is possible that as you completely remove one bottleneck, that you expose some other things that also need to be dealt with, and whether we'd be able to, whether those would be egregious enough in terms of a problem, or whether you'd be able to quickly patch them up and deal with them and push it out with 3.8 with a player count, or whether some of that stuff would have to move to 3.9. That part we don't yet know, but that's definitely where we're headed.
Yeah, and to explain why that profiling is so important, and the real reasoning behind it is that there's going to be a sweet spot for us where it makes a lot of sense to actually have that exact player count, because it has a little bit to do with how players play, where they're going to be positioned within the server. But conceptually, you could end up in a state that we've got, let's say 200 players that are in every single location, every single object container, and it's actually all loaded in the end. But it really depends on how the players are playing. But we will find a sweet spot in here, because there is an edge where we go too far that it's actually not helping us as much. But I think even in that case, we're still going to be better.
But that's a perfect
And I hope that he's just postulating, and I hope that we're getting more than 200 here. Sean's talking about like, where is the sweet spot? We don't want too many players per server. He's trying to find a sweet spot for a number. So I hope he's just kind of guesstimating a number around 200, because we're going to need a shit ton more than 200. Let's just be honest. We're going to need a shit ton more than 200. You're talking about some of these ships here with multi-crew and fleet battles. We're going to need it around the 1,000 mark. Like, we're really going to need that number being elevated that high in certain instances where we get into these large battles with different orgs together. You just know it. That's the way it's going to have to be. So I hope that 200 number is just kind of like them talking about the theory crafting of where that sweet spot on that number is going to end up being.
Perfect example of where SOX is really, it's a building block towards the future, in terms of, yes, if you actually had a perfect distribution of players, then you could wind up eliminating much, if not necessarily all, of the benefit of SOX. The server mesh would eventually fix this by simply going, oh, well, you're over in this area, we're going to mate you to a server that only covers items in that area, and therefore
Oh, okay. So that might answer the question I had previously about the amount of items in the game. So that's really interesting. They're talking about the server meshing coming. So J-Dubs, what you had said, actually correct, dude. It sounds like to me like there is no top end because of server meshing from what Tony's saying. So nice catch on that one, Jay.
The long-term path will deal with that, very elegantly.
Wow.
Server side.
That got me really excited. Hearing that, actually. That got me super excited hearing that.
Yes, we don't have the full universe persistence in, so we're going to have a more enhanced version of persistence in 3.8 than we previously had. So if you buy things or rent things or do stuff with in-game money that you've earned, and the in-game money you earn will have the ability to persist it between patches even from 3.8 onwards. But the proper persistence is, I go anywhere, I take my Elroy's cup, I get my coffee at the space station, I take it with me, I get on the spaceship, I fly to a planet, I walk in a forest, I litter, I drop it on the floor in the forest.
It stays
I get off,
in the forest.
I fly away, and then Sean flies to the forest and sees an Elroy
cup
when he arrives in that area. So
and I grab it and I sell it.
Yeah, there you go. But
then you come back and you think that there's a bug in the game because it's gone, whereas in reality, Sean took it.
Yeah, so the second stage of
really, really funny there. That's actually really funny.
The SOX is the full persistence comes in with what we call the iCache, which basically will save out all the state and position of any item in the game when you move away from it. So if you have to, which is what's happening on the server right now, it streams out.
Absolutely, Darlax. So Darlax says SOCS is good, but it's just another piece. And the most important thing is the server meshing. I absolutely agree as far as the ability for the servers to handle the load on the objects that are around you. So for instance, like the current problem is that they can't they have limitations on the amount that can be in the game, and that's a serious problem. So, as far as the priority right now, I actually think SOCS is a little bit more of the priority as they're adding a new system and they need more objects to be loaded in the game. And server meshing, they go really hand in hand. SOCS and server meshing go hand in hand. What we had seen them talk about previously, about 10 minutes ago, was not only just the amount of players in a server, instance, but also talking about the amount of objects that are around the players. And what they were saying is, as far as not the number of people, but the number of objects around them, if in fact things got sluggish or slow, what would happen is that another server would pick up the instances with a few of the other players so that those items would load on that server, and then they would kind of distribute the amount of objects more evenly so that the actual frame rates were higher. So it is pretty interesting to hear them talk about this. Also with persistence, very interesting. Like Chris has given an example of a mug in a forest and somebody coming out. That's really cool. That's really cool. But as I had talked about earlier, is like, how do you police the abuses of that system? How do you police it? That's what I'm talking about.
Like what's there, and right now we're persisting it in the server.
No, I'm not saying they're similar milestones at all. I'm saying that they're dependent on one another, Bucha. It's not you kind of took me out of context. I'm not saying that OCS and server meshing are similar at all. What I'm trying to say is that they really are dependent upon each other for what we want from the game.
His memory, but we aren't persisting it back to a cloud database just yet. So if you play the session, you drop stuff, put stuff everywhere, it'll all persist in the session in 3.8 server OCS. But in a future version, I don't know when iCache is coming in, but with that, what will happen is, besides us saving the state, which we already will do in memory in 3.8, it will then save it to a backend database. So if you come back a week later and go to that location, as long as Sean hasn't come and stolen my cup, and I go back and go, I dropped my cup on the forest, the cup will be there. And the really cool thing about that is that all the dynamic items, whether they're cups or spaceships or guns or armor suits or a note you leave someone, will persist in the world where they are. And I don't really know any MMO that has that level of detail at the scale that we have that allows you to do that. And so that is very cool, because once that's running, that also means that, like, you want to create a settlement on a planet,
you can.
You can.
Yeah, that's the big part of it. It's emergent, and they're actually affecting the world.
Talking about that Pioneer, man, because that's when the Pioneer comes into play. Pioneer, a colonizing ship, one of those very high, ambitious, stretching, forward-looking type ship designs. And the Pioneer is going to be one of those ships where if your org has it, you're gonna bless them for having it.
The universe, in so many games, it's all very scripted. It's all very, they say you're affecting the world, but hey, after 200 fights and all that, there's no direct affection, right? But this is actually an evolution by the players. They're again creating settlements, setting up things. Yep. I think that's exciting.
In 3.8, being a fun of Fight Club, we have something else coming, which I think is kind of cool. We've teased a bit.
This is a real exciting feature that's actually coming in. It's not just melee combat with your fists, it's melee combat with some melee type weapons. And I'm not sure, we are going to introduce a knife, I believe, into the PU. We'll put it in the shops and everything. So with melee combat, you get the ability, of course, to make some punches. And it's not just, simple one punch. We put, a little bit of thought into this, a little bit of fun into it. There's some combos that you can do. You can decide to do, a heavy right or a quick jab. Going to be the quick attack, right? And you can block on top of it. But it's important. It's not just like a permanent, easy block where you're just like you put it up and then no matter what they do, they can't hit you. No, it's positional as well. Huge props right now to the active feature team, because I mean they were proper OCD over getting this thing done. I mean, I remember seeing a video that and I think they just sped it up. They showed me sort of pass one, pass two, and then it got whether they were doing this when I see
that was a problem.
when I see version 58. I'm going, nice, guys.
And we've already started to integrate this into the law system so that punching on other people is a crime. You will have, there will be penalties applied.
But it's not quite as bad as killing them.
Well, that's the whole purpose of the law system, which is we can basically mete out different levels of punishment
and
depending
different
upon
areas
what it is
we
you're
can,
doing.
like, so for instance, maybe in
It's going to need a lot of work. That's my advice, or that's my opinion right now. This is going to need a lot of work. This is going to have a lot of iterations before I'm comfortable with the way that this looks, period. I like that the Melee's in there. I like that when we talk about the accountancy app coming in and we're talking about wallet-to-wallet transactions, that's going to be cool so we can gamble. I love that. Like right now in its introductory base baby form, as very base level, at least we're going to be able to gamble on this stuff. That should be cool. But yeah, this is going to need a lot of work. I see that they're impressed with it. I know where they've come from. It was a complete shit turd when they started this concept, and they have brought it a long way. But we have a long, let's be frank here. We have a long way to go before melee combat makes us happy as far as how it looks.
Grim Hex, no one cares. You can get into fist fights, but
Exactly.
if you're getting into a fist fight in the middle of Area 18, that's not so cool.
Another reason why this is actually really important is there will be certain areas within the game to where you're restricted from carrying weapons, prison being one of them. It's like when you're in prison, you don't actually have guns or any of the traditional stuff. So if you want to be able to defend yourself, you'd better be fairly good at hand-to-hand fighting.
The last part of Melee, which I didn't mention, was also the takedowns, which is another thing that comes in as
Right.
part of that. So that is something that you can do player to player. So nobody's paying attention or anything like that. You can avoid it a little bit. But you also get that component of it too. So if you got a knife, you got fists, you got a lot of different ways to.
Vital says, try and stop me having a fist fight in Area 18. I'm just viewing myself walking through the courtyard, the central Area 18, and just seeing like Vital's going over there smacking people around as he's walking. Thanks for that follow, Ben. Thank you, dude.
To take somebody out.
Yeah, and of course, the other big one that will have a very big impact on some of the missions and stuff is the potential for stealth gameplay, that type of stuff. Whether it's actually knives or just silent takedown, sleeper holes, whatever else.
We've got some cool mission stuff coming in
Yep.
3.8.
The biggest introduction would be the 890 jump mission. And then from there, we're doing a lot of kind of quality of life passes on the way that the mission works, how things are doled out to the player, what actually happens in the mission. Some of them are a little bit boring, and figuring out how we can interject new things. Same with interjecting AI and other aspects to freshen it up.
Yeah, and that's one that we want to capitalize on going forward. I think we're at the point now to where the combat is mature enough, and some of the other loose ends
There's
that we need to
definitely
tie up.
improvements to the combat that will be in 3.8 that you haven't seen, that people haven't seen in 3.7, or didn't even see in the video we did with because that was super early work in progress on the 890 jump mission. That I think all the time the AI is getting better, their ability to pathfind, beyond.
You guys let me know. As far as space combat, still seemed a bit sloppy to me. Erad says I'm crazy, but still has a lot of work to go, in my opinion, because I've played 3.8. But I have not gone against the AI in FPS version form, like in the actual NPC character version form. Let me know if you guys have in 3.8 that are in the first wave like myself. Let me know if you guys are fighting NPC AI over here, fam. And if you're having better experiences with that, if you've had those experiences in the 3.8 first wave.
3.8, or, just pathfinding on planets, or, arriving on a ship, getting off a ship, getting, coming in as reinforcements.
Transitioning between different
Yeah,
zones.
people riding AI, riding the tram, for instance.
Yeah, that's a huge one.
But that's one of the most interesting ones to me, which
Not in 3.8, just to let everyone know.
I would say
it will be in 3.9.4.0. Also, one other thing we're delivering with 3.8 is the space stations or rest stops. You want to tell us a bit about that? Because
So,
greatly expanded from what we have.
Yeah, just the overall size of them, the visual difference between them, the hub sizes that are in there, the way that we procedurally generate them. We've got HABs, we've got Elroys, having them in low orbit around planets.
So they'll basically be a sort of geosynchronous station that will be for each one of the major planets. You don't have to go all the way down to you can go there, you can save in orbit versus having to go all the way down the planet.
And also certain people that have certain ships that will not be able to land on planets.
Love it. Love that. Love that. We were talking about that years ago. We wanted to make sure that very large cap ships would not have the ability to land on planets just because physics. And the fact that the larger ships are basically going to be space bound and have to dock at these large truck stops, space stations, is glorious. Now, I would like to see like maybe an added feature of different types of Argo tugboats being put towards a cap ship that could possibly then land the ship down on the planet in the future. That's just theory crafting. That would be cool to me if that was added. But for now, I dig the fact that that's the way it's set up. Personally, my own opinion.
Go there. Yeah.
Yes, they can go there and then obviously get transferred down.
One of the other long-term projects we have is sort of the combat, right? So there's the FPS combat, which you get, you already hinted at that you've been increasing some of the reaction and the speeds.
Exactly.
We've still got more to do. I think there's some more networking stuff that we have to do to make that better. Vehicle combat's another big one, right?
We didn't mention that is coming into 3.8 is the Animus missile launcher. It's a FPS missile launcher. It's got a 3-missile sort of range.
The gameplay.
And by the way, I got hit by one of those. Not a ton of damage off of that. They might want to tweak it up a little bit. They tickled a little bit. I'm going to post a video of my encounter from the last Experienced Star Citizen with an Animus missile launcher. We had Donnie in the chat with us yesterday who confirmed, in fact, it was an Animus missile launcher. Donnie is a Cloud Imperium employee who watches us, and I was talking it over with him on stream the other day, and he said, in fact, that I was correct in my assumption on the video that it was an Animus missile launcher, and that they're having design issues right now as far as the lock can be up to, I believe, 4 kilometers away on the Animus missile launcher. The lock on an Animus missile launcher will also show in your indicators on missile lock and radar lock as well. So very cool. Those missiles hit, some of those missiles hit the top of the tree lines. They hit trees. So you have to be in clear open areas when you fire them. I will release that video sometime this week, maybe on the weekend, where I go on stream and I talk about my encounter and why I reacted the way that I did in that Experienced Star Citizen episode when I got locked by the Animus missile launcher. So stay tuned for that. It's pretty fun. We talked about that on stream yesterday.
Is not as simple as, lock missiles fire and basically you're going to do a lot of damage. It's you need to get in close enough, or first you need to wear down their scout ships, or first you need to knock out the defensive turrets, or first you need to do one of a number of different things so that you can actually get that torpedo through those defenses and actually impact these these big capital ships, where we really want to start drawing a multitude of players and or AI units together and get them all fighting and making it feel like one big fleet battle, as opposed to these much smaller scale things that we've had to date.
And there was one thing I was going to say that on the vehicle experience team that's kind of a cool thing that I like for 3.8 is we've implemented this look ahead system, which sort of simulates the way you are. Like if you ever look at Terrada's had all these really cool badass flying stuff, but he's got he's using the
Track-IR.
I'm not sure if it's Track-IR or he's using our FOIP head tracking.
He was using that for the longest time, and if you guys aren't familiar with Terrada, he's a French content creator who makes some really cool instructional videos on how to fly. And for those people that are saying the flight experience isn't the best, I talked about this last 2 streams ago, where I said go to Buzz's channel, shout out to my friend Buzz, who shows you how to map out your flight sticks, and then go to Terrada's channel, who shows you how to fly. If you do those 2 things, your flight experience will improve by 100%. Does it still need work? Yes. Like, these things we've been talking about on the channel for quite some time. The past week and a half, we've been talking a lot about the flight experience and how you can improve it. But interestingly enough for me, when they're starting to talk about Terrada and they're talking about how he's flying the ship, I don't know if that's initially the way that you should fly with the IR tracker looking towards an area. He's using the very large square up in the HUD to kind of direct where he's going, so he's basically predicting his movements by looking at the square ahead of him, which shows him the physical his pathing basically.
But you can see as a pilot or as a car driver, when you're turning, you actually look, you turn in. So the look ahead system basically manages a bunch of things, where your velocity vector is going to be, where your target is, and they all have different weights, and then it weights the camera towards there, but not terribly. So you basically get the feeling of, oh yeah, I'm looking into my turn, or I'm kind of guiding towards a target. So the cool thing is that the cockpit now, it sort of feels real and visceral around you. Of course, you can turn it off in the options, but I really feel that, and we've also been tweaking the chase cameras.
Yeah.
So they're more fluid. There's more options in terms of, even in when you're on foot, we have like a kind of an over-the-shoulder sort of traditional third-person game view and a further-out view and your first-person view. So then we've got a bunch of quality of life sort of gameplay adjustments we want to be making with 3.8.
Well, I mean, there's just the general fixes that we're trying to go through and improve, whether that be UI or UX with that stuff. Same with missions. If we're seeing any kind of funny bugs that will affect the actor status or even combat, we're just trying to slowly go through and work through those vehicle experience, the actor experience, as well as just the way that the character interacts with things.
Yeah, there's a lot there. Like on the quality of life stuff, one of the things that we're putting some focus on now to make it work much better than it has in the past is to apply increased pressure when you've actually broken law, when you have a wanted level on your character. Right now, it's like when you run upon a security unit, a cop, he can actually call for reinforcements, et cetera. But those reinforcements always only spawn on the edge of your radar distance, and then they have to conventionally travel towards you. And there are multiple problems with this. One is those ships can't actually, the AI ships can't currently employ their afterburners to, when they're pursuing you, and therefore it's very easy for you to just point your ship in the opposite direction and get away from them. And so this is all geared towards when you actually engage with another ship and you blow it up, there's some sort of reward for many of them. This is another thing.
This is a very important for a PvPer. This is very important.
We're actually adding rewards for a lot of the ships that historically haven't had them, so that when you get interdicted, you're getting, assuming you actually hang around long enough to actually fight it out with these guys, you're getting some sort of benefit for your effort, so that everyone that you engage in is not like, oh, well, what's the point of fighting this guy and burning through some of my fuel and my ammo when when I'm getting nothing out of it. Now, we are actually dangling on occasion some significant rewards. Obviously, those are more rare, but you're always kind of like wondering what you're going to get when you crack the egg open.
If you're getting attacked by, say, a pirate or something, if you sort of ID them, then potentially that pirate had a bounty on their head, and you'll get paid money for actually fighting them versus just having to fight to get out of it.
Yeah, that was another thing that we've been focused on, which is actually on these characters that engage with you, they can now optionally have a wanted level. And if you actually go to the trouble of scanning them and identifying and figuring out that they had a wanted level, then the implication is that after you killed them, you would have retrieved the black box, their body, whatever, and turned it in. But for right now, what we're going to simply do is, if you've verified that there is a bounty on this particular character and you kill them, then you immediately get the benefit.
Okay. Yeah. Well, great. I think that was
ease of use. They're making a little easy mode on that one. There should be a little bit more layer of complexity on it. But interestingly enough, like our community's talking here, like early, like they're talking Elite Dangerous mode, because that's essentially how it kind of works on Elite Dangerous. When you're going after targets with rewards, you instantly get those creds or they get zapped over. So I do like the fact that when you're engaged, that they're thinking about giving you higher rewards, number one. I also want to talk about like the zone at which you're able to interdict and keep targets there. See, this is another kind of issue with PvPers, is when you get into that zone and you've interdicted somebody out of Quantum, that they have this large zone so that they can't just fly away. You want to get into the nitty gritty. You want to have a PvP experience. So I would definitely look at the area that is affected, and sorry about this, I don't know it right now. How large is the area where there is an interdiction spot from, say, the Mantis or any kind of interdiction modules? It needs to be fairly large so that you have the ability to fight. You don't want people just to like, whoosh, go jet and then not have the experience. It's only about 5K right now. So not pretty amazing. So thank you, Jay. Jay's saying right now only 5K. So this is something that needs to be talked about as well. Imagine you get somebody out of Quantum, whether you're a pirate or whether you're a bounty hunter, on both sides of the law, doesn't matter, because if you're dropping somebody out, and then you have this experience where like, okay, great, time to engage, you just don't want them to flip out. So you have to talk about the rules of engagement in terms of the game mechanics. You have to talk about exactly how much area is there where somebody can't just zip away back into Quantum. You know, and that is a very large topic that needs to be discussed in the community, because if it's not that large of a radius and somebody could just zip out and then boom, pop right out, that's not going to be a great experience for those that are into the PvP. Be great experience for those that are PvEing that don't want to have to deal with it, but not necessarily great for bounty hunters, pirates, people that are more engaged into the PvP. These are things that need to be talked about as well.
A pretty fun conversation about a bunch of stuff that we're...
And like Verp says, if you are in a Mantis, obviously because it's just so weak, you're going to want to have a crew running with you. You're just not going out there in a Mantis, or you got a death wish. So you're going to want to bring out an EMP capable ship. You know, you're gonna like a Saber Raven or a Hawk. You're gonna need to bring out quite a varied crew with you in order to have like a PvP experience. So you will have to plan that out ahead of time, which is cool. But you're also gonna have to talk about that zone of engagement. You're gonna have to talk about it, because the smaller that the radius is, the harder time you're going to have to have these PvP experiences. This is perfect. This pause right here. Right, Chris? He's like, hey, I'm working on it, eh?
We'll be up and coming in Star Citizen this year. Of course, it's not everything we're working on, because we've got cool stuff down the road. But as you can tell, there's a lot of stuff that's coming together that's, I think, really making the game come alive, and has a huge, opportunity to make the game emergent and, just allow for gameplay that we haven't seen before. So just definitely makes me excited. I think it makes all these guys super excited too. So, but I'm looking forward to everybody playing 3.8 and seeing lots of cool screenshots and videos and Tales of Adventure. Thank you very much.
All right. I was happy with that one. Overall, much better than the last one. Thank you, God. I'm not going to go off on that one. I actually thought that was pretty informative. I liked it. You got Chris and Tony there. You really can't go wrong. And that's why I say at least have Chris there on every episode. Chris, you do this 4 times a year, guys. So, I implore you, Chris, Cloud Imperium, please take the time out to, at least if you're only doing 4 of these or so a year, to be there, Chris. And that's good. Good on you for showing up on this one, Chris. And Tony, great to hear Tony as well. Sean had some little tidbits in there, and Todd as well. Very, very well done. Very informative. And thanks, guys. Thanks. A little golf clap here for my fam showing up on the video, giving me some talking points. Thanks, guys, here that were live on the stream. Thank you very much. Appreciate all of you. Very open-minded community here. We are having a giveaway as well. So you guys want to check out my YouTube channel. We're having a giveaway. And brought to us by our awesome community. I always have a great time with you guys. Thank you so much. And now it's on back to my Star Wars marathon with my daughter. And I've got some pretty funny outtakes from a Christmas video I had done a long time ago for our patrons. I'll be posting that soon. And of course, more Star Citizen and gaming content on the channel. Thank you all. Absolutely love you, fam. And let's get shout outs on here. Thanks, Buzz, for that subscription, OG for the follow, Ash for the follow, and Ben for the follow. Thanks, guys. And I will see you on the next stream. Peace out, guys.